Hello and welcome to our nutrition seminar today. Today is one of the most unique days to talk about nutrition because, the pandemic that we all have been dealing with for the past few months has inevitably taken away our beloved goal race, the Chicago Marathon. If that's news to you, don't leave just yet. So while that comes as a bummer, it also gives us a unique opportunity to repurpose this year, take a step back, and see what areas could we improve ourselves. Consider these options. Are you trying to heal from a nagging injury? Perhaps working on some cross-training to help prevent that injury from happening next year? Maybe you want to focus on speed or with shorter distances. Or is it nutrition? Do you want to clean up your body's intake, stop stomach issues, cramping, improve your body composition and overall performance? Or what we hear a lot of, I want to get into a better race weight. During the actual training season is actually not that time. What if I told you that nutrition can affect everything? The Center of Nutrition Studies says if you want athletes to lower injury risk, to improve musculature, to lower body fat levels so that their strength to weight ratio is better and sufficiently energized so that they can play through the entire competition well. So if you're a basketball player, you can jump as high and as often during the fourth period as you did in the first. Or in our terms, what if you could run mile 20 to 26 like you did mile 1 to 13? All those things just don't happen unless you have created a nutritional environment that allows it to happen. And that's why you're here, to learn all about the different nutrition areas, different areas in nutrition that can affect not only just your race, but your life. We are runners and this is our lifestyle. And we want to continue to do this as long as we can, right? And if you didn't know this before, you simply cannot outrun a bad diet. I'm excited to introduce our panel of professionals who will help us understand nutrition better and will give us advice to make strong choices so that we can train better, live better, and have the race of a lifetime when we are able to toe that line again. Our message at Align Modern Health is to live life to the fullest. Today, we have with us two awesome experts in nutrition and lifestyle, fellow marathon and ultra marathoner, and last year's Breaking Through the Wall panelist, functional medicine doctor, Lexi Mykrit. Our other provider, she's a licensed dietitian nutritionist with a love for her Chicago sports teams and a passion for wildlife, and she is an interpreter and educational raptor handler, Sue Smith. Also with me is a coach whose journey with CES began the same day as mine. We paced together, became coaches, and through an interest that started through fitness, we moved into the health and wellness world. He is back in school, enthusiastically crushing it in class, and is seeking a profession in, nutrition. I am excited to have him here with me, my fellow coach and longtime friend, Walter Martinez. Welcome, everyone. For everyone tuning in, if you have any questions at all, please post them in the Q&A below, and we will ensure we address them as we go. So let's begin. Now, some people might not know what functional medicine is. Can we help our audience understand what that is, and how does the partnership work between a functional medicine doctor and a licensed dietitian nutritionist? I guess we'll start with you Dr. Mykrit.
So functional medicine seeks to find the root cause of disease through various specialty testing, including blood work, saliva testing, looking at hormones, stool testing to look at your microbiome and your gut health. So that's what functional medicine is. And then once we find those results, we treat using natural holistic measures like nutrition, supplementation, lifestyle changes, and that's where our nutritionists come into play. So our functional medicine doctors do testing, they diagnose, and then we co-treat with our nutritionists to help with these habits that we all know can be hard to change sometimes, whether it's nutrition or lifestyle.
Yeah, I work with our functional medicine doctors at Align Modern Health, and I get specific goals from the functional medicine doctor, whether it's a specific diet to treat a dysbiosis or overgrowth of some sort of bacteria or yeast, or whether it's working on weight loss or hormones, or athletic fueling for events such as a marathon. So I work with our functional medicine doctors with the food part of it. The doctor does mostly the diagnosing, the lab tests, the supplement part of it, and then combined, we work well together to come up to your goals.
Okay, great.
All right, awesome. Just curious, why is it that nutrition matters so much when it comes to our training? I mean, a lot of us are, training in ways that we've never trained before. Why can't we just go out and eat whatever we want? Why does nutrition play such a role, or does it?
Well, as Ryan already said, you can't outrun a bad diet. So when you're training, you could put in the time, you could put in the effort, you could be cutting what you think you need to be doing from a fitness standpoint. But if your nutrition's not working in your favor, you can't get past that. We commonly see athletes who are endurance runners, and there's no time when you are putting your body to the test like an endurance sport. And you need to have your body functioning as optimally as possible, or else you're not going to achieve the goals that you want to get. So it's enough to give you that cutting edge, to take you from, being a recreational runner to your PR.
Okay, great. So I hear that nutrition does start with a good night's rest. So how much does sleep actually affect your nutrition? Dr. Mike Wright, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, sleep is so important for your nutrition because of its impacts on our endocrine system, or our hormones. So when you get a good night's sleep, your circadian rhythm is going to help support your hormones in a healthy way. When you do not get a good night's sleep, hormones like leptin, which controls your appetite, is going to be impacted. So you're actually going to feel hungrier than you actually are. Your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which is something that is challenged being endurance athletes. We're constantly pushing our cortisol levels. Bad night's sleep is going to impact that. And then nutritionally, we're going to be set back. Blood sugar stability is another hormone, part of our endocrine system, that if your nutrition's off base, it's going to impact your sleep, and vice versa. So the two roles just go back and forth. And then on the flip side, what you're eating is going to lead to bad sleep. So if you eat a bunch of inflammatory foods, alcohol, high sugar, dairy before bed, it's going to impact your sleep, leading to all these impacts that impact your nutrition. So it just goes back and forth there.
So it's just kind of like a
chain
reaction.
It really is. You can't change one without the other one, and you could really dig yourself into a hole there.
All right. Oh, wow. So should we then be calorie counting? Should we, be keeping track of how many calories we're eating on a regular basis? And if so, what should our calorie count be? And how do we figure out how many calories we should be taking in?
Well, I'll take that one. So it's good to check in once in a while with an app or calorie counting app to see how many calories you are actually eating during your training, because your training is amping up, and so should your calories, and also checking the balance of your macros, so your carbs, protein, fat, to make sure that those are in balance and continue to grow as you continue to increase your activity. Now, I have a Excel document I could share with you, and kind of gives a rough idea about how many calories you should have, carbs, protein, and fat, based on the amount of time that you are doing your workouts. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Can you all see my screen up here?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just an average. Again, to know personally, you would want to come in and see one of our functional medicine doctors to get, or our nutritionist, just to get it more personalized to you based on your age, weight, height, gender. So it's not just one size fits all. It's really personalized to you. So as you see this fueling during training, this is just a training level. So with no exercise, this is calories per pound of body weight. And then your carbs can be like a 40%, 30% protein, 30% fat. And then up to an hour of exercise, you up the calories to 15 to 17 calories per pound body weight. Again, giving specific amount of carbs, because those carbs are good for fuel, but you do also need some protein and some healthy fat. If you go up to, let's say, 3 hours plus, you're really into those long runs. You really need to amp up your calories, amp up your carbohydrates, because that's what's really, really going to get you through the energy that you need. and then increasing your protein at the end, especially for muscle recovery. Also, increasing your fat as well. So again, if you want it more personalized, you're more than welcome to make an appointment with any of our functional medicine doctors, and then come see one of our nutritionists to kind of get that figured out for you.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about calories and macros, because right, calories aren't just calories. Like you can't just from what I understand is that you can't just take in any old calories. There's a function to the things that we eat, right? So let's talk a little bit more about macros. What types of roles do proteins and carbs and fat take with us?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan, because often with running, we just think about carbohydrates. We're going to carb load, eat all that pasta before the marathon, and you'll be set. But there's actually a lot more to it, and it's good to take into account how all the different macronutrients work together. So as Sue explained, as we get into the bigger, longer pushes, we do need to increase our carbohydrates. And our body could actually store carbohydrates in a form called glycogen. And this is stored in our liver and our muscles. But in order to store that, we need protein. So not only do we need protein to store our carbohydrates, but we also need it for repair, muscle regeneration, so to keep going. So once you're done working out, that's where protein really comes into play. And then along those lines, as we get into our longer efforts, we actually start to rely on fat as energy too. You can only store so much carbohydrates, and we burn through carbohydrates faster than we burn into other fat stores. So it's kind of like that second runner-up. We got to have the fats. Fats are also crucial for vitamin absorption. So there's 4 different vitamins: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. In order to absorb those, which play various roles not only in running but in your overall health, you need fat. Fat's also really important for hormonal balance. So like I said with sleep, all those hormones that impact our sleep and our nutrition and our overall health, we need healthy levels of fat to maintain those hormonal levels. So super important across the board to keep our macros in check.
All right, so what about micronutrients then? I heard some talk about micronutrients. What are those? Which ones are the ones that are important?
Yeah, micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals, where your macronutrients are your broad category of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, but micronutrients are all your vitamins and minerals. So if you eat a diet high in whole, unprocessed foods, such as fruits, vegetables, getting plenty of healthy fats and some lean proteins, you should get most of your nutrients from foods, those micronutrients. Now, our functional medicine doctors can assess your micronutrients through blood work and specialty testing to see where you are, if you're deficient in any of the vitamins or minerals that you need for your just daily life, really, and then and then you'll need more when you're doing more endurance runnings. So some vitamins and minerals to pay attention to for energy are like your B vitamins and iron. Magnesium, calcium, and vitamin D are needed for bone health. And then we have our electrolytes, which is your sodium, potassium, which are very important for your fluid balance.
Okay, so I know that, so we touched base a little bit about your sodium, potassium, and electrolytes. I think a lot of us understand that salt is a pretty important factor into our nutrition. Does it matter if it's table salt versus like a Himalayan salt? And can you help us differentiate between the different salts?
Yeah, so table salt, like your regular salt that you have at restaurants and whatnot, that is just sodium and chloride. So you think back to high school chemistry, NaCl, that's what table salt is. But now if you've got a Himalayan salt or a sea salt, there's actually potassium and iodine, a little bit of iron. You're going to get a more broad spectrum of minerals in that. So not only for, your daily life, it's better to opt for those better, higher quality salts because you're going to hit more of your minerals. But then, for, like Sue just said, your fluid balance, you need potassium as a key player there. So for runners, if you're going to do salt as one of your electrolyte recoveries, I would opt for a Himalayan or a sea salt.
Awesome.
Fascinating. But what about supplements? is there a role for them? Or is there a role for supplements in our diets? Should we be looking at them? And if so, which ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. So supplementation is a really big part of a functional medicine practice. Like Sue said, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, the hope is to be able to get all the nutrients you need out of your food sources. Unfortunately, our food sourcing in America is not as healthy as it could be a lot of the times. A lot of us eat a standard American diet that is depleted of a lot of nourishing vitamins. And then so things like vitamin D, B12 are common things that I could test in my patient and we could therapeutically dose you if you need it. And then along those lines, as an endurance athlete, other important supplementation to consider or ask your doctor about would be anti-inflammatories like turmeric or resveratrol or adrenal support, because we know it's really stressful to run a lot. So supporting your stress response can help you go a little further, or something to help your sleep. So that's pretty generic and whatnot, but there is different places where supplements and vitamins and nutraceuticals could fit into an individual's running plan for sure.
Okay, and a lot of these things are available over the counter then?
Yeah, so you can get some over the counter, but the best way to go to get supplements would be to talk to a functional medicine provider, because unfortunately, a lot of supplements and over the counter vitamins have fillers and other toxins in them. So if you're going to spend your time and money getting a vitamin that you think is doing good for you, make sure it's a brand you could trust. And working with a functional medicine provider is one way to ensure that it's a high quality supplement. So it's actually going to do what it says it does.
Awesome. Okay. Get the right one. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So sometimes it's hard to understand, like, the makeup of a meal. You could tell us that we should have X amount of this or that. But I like to have, like real suggestions that I can kind of base, what my meal should look like. Are you able to, share some suggestions for the different meals in the day? Say breakfast, lunch, snacks, and dinner.
Ryan, before we go into specifics, I want to show like a generic plate diagram. And I have actually 3 of them. One for an easy day of training, one for a moderate day of training, which I'll show first, and one for a hard day of training. So this is from it's called teamusa.org. So it's the US Olympic team has a ton of resources on their website. So this is one of them. So this is your moderate day training. So imagine your plate, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Always include veggies for breakfast. I keep telling that to everybody. A lot of people can't imagine eating a vegetable for breakfast. It's not all about eating a pastry or something sweet for breakfast. We really have to have real food for breakfast as well. So as you see here, moderate day training, you should have your fruit, your vegetables here. Almost half your portion of plate is vegetables. Your grains or carbohydrates should be another maybe 2/3 of a plate. And then your protein should be about 1/4 of a plate. So you see, you get the amount of carbs, make sure you get your vegetables, your protein. Then you can add in some fruits, and make sure you have your healthy fats, list some different healthy fats there. And of course your flavors, so all your herbs, your spices, your salsas, etc. Now if we go to, let's look at the easy day of training. Can you see this, Ryan? It says easy day?
Yep.
Okay, good. So easy day, we don't need as many whole grains or carbohydrates because we're doing less activity. Now this one shows, your fruits, your vegetables as half your plate. Now 1/4 of your plate, if you're not trying to lose weight, of your whole grains or, your sweet potatoes. If you're wanting to lose a little bit of weight, cut down on your carbohydrates, but increase your protein. And then of course, eating your healthy fats as well, and your herbs and spices. So less carbohydrates are needed. Let's, during easy training days, let's get more of those nutrient-rich fruits and vegetables. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Now this is for hard day or race day. So notice we flip-flopped. We have half your plate is grains. So your carbohydrates, you're really trying to pack on and the carbohydrates so you have enough energy throughout your training day or your race. Again, supplementing with fruits, but your vegetables are limited because they don't have a lot of carbs, but you're still getting those nutrients. And then your protein stays the same with a quarter of your plate. Now, again, your fats are still 2 tablespoons, so we still want to include fats on the day of the race day. Again, as Dr. Microt said, you start burning fat if you don't have enough carbohydrates while you're training. So are those good for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect visual of what I would need.
Yeah.
I basically need someone to spoon feed me or plate feed me what I should be, what my plate should look like.
Well, I think we all would appreciate that too. So that's just a general guideline. Dr. Microt, do you have any suggestions for specific meals?
Sure. Yeah, I think basing off what Sue said, planning ahead of time is going to be how you make this happen. So stocking up your fridge with some veggies, good sources of protein, and then I like to make like bowls. So if you want to grab like quinoa and throw in your protein and your non-starchy vegetables, that's so easy. But for specific examples for like breakfast, veggies, like Sue mentioned, are always great, but you could throw some eggs in there too. The Applegate turkey sausage is a great brand that's really easy that you could buy pre-made. You could also do like a chia seed pudding or overnight oats. That's something you could prep the night before and have it in your fridge. Snack-wise, summertime fruit is awesome, but fruit by itself is going to be that carbohydrate spike we kind of don't want to do, like Sue just alluded to. So throw on a high-quality cashew butter and an almond butter. Look for one that doesn't have added sugar. That's such a great snack throughout your day, or like hummus with veggies and olives, so you get some fat in it too. Wonderful snacks. Lunches, I love doing like salads, but it doesn't have to be boring. You could do like a Mediterranean quinoa salad and have the quinoa base, throw some olive oil and balsamic in it, and then all the veggies you have, some chickpeas and like chicken or whatever protein you want to do. And then dinner is really the easiest. Just go back to your basics and follow those plate diagrams. That's when you really, it doesn't need to be boring. You add all the flavors and the spices that you want, but make sure you really hit all your food groups there.
I think I think you alluded to that in the beginning of your answer. I think one of the best things about being quarantined or working a lot from home is being able to just go to my fridge and just stock it with good healthy items. Because when I'm out and about, then the challenges arise, right? So I think there's a little benefit for spending a little more time at home, I guess.
So then, would you be able to recommend any apps that can help us with food portioning, calories, macro monitoring?
Oh, I am all about the apps. I'm all about technology. So with food tracking, there's a million different apps out there. The most common one is MyFitnessPal. I think most everybody has used that. I get people who come to see me and they forgot they had an account. They had one in high school with some silly nickname that I have to look up their food diary with. But so almost all of the food tracking apps, like MyFitnessPal, there's Lose It, there's Carb Manager. The one I like the best, which is they have a free version. Most of them do have a free version. It's called Chronometer. That is, to me, the most thorough food tracking app out there. Not only can you see your calories, what you ate that day, that you can see, and also your macros, how many carbs, protein, fat, fiber, but you can also look at all of those micronutrients. So if, let's say you go see Dr. Microt, you're deficient in magnesium and zinc, you can actually look at that, track your food, look at that app and see how much magnesium, zinc you're getting in your food. Then if you need extra help, you can come see me and I can help you get ideas of foods that can actually boost that magnesium and zinc, all your vitamins and minerals. So that one to me is the most comprehensive of the food tracking apps. Chronometer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely used MyFitnessPal in the past, and yeah, but that other app sounds really, really good. Either way.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm very familiar, for example, with Lose It. I've used that for years, but yeah, I like that one that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not into carb counting or calorie counting, there's other ones that just track your food. There's ones you could take pictures of. It's see how you eat, where you just take a picture of your food and then you can look back. It's like, wow, that was not a good day of me eating. So if you're one of those that needs accountability, you look back at what you eat through pictures, that's a good app for that, even though that does not count calories or macros.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big key things with nutrition, right? Is like how do we simplify things so it's not so daunting, right? It's kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a question from our audience, and I think I touched up base on this a little bit, but let's hear what the rest of the panel says. How does sheltering at home affect our meal choices in real life?
Oh, I'll take that. So I have noticed, because I'm a nutritionist, I deal with people's food all day, every day. Well, first of all, I'll come back to that, but I've noticed people are cooking more, which is great for me because I get people, well, I travel every week. I need quick, easy takeout things. And I'm like, you know, do your best. But when people have more time to focus on food and to cook their own food, they know what the ingredients are. They know what they're putting in their body. So it's just much better for their body. Instead of just going out and grabbing whatever takeout, you don't know the ingredients. It could be high in sodium, which can increase your blood pressure. It could be, you know, high in carbohydrate, too high in carbohydrate. You don't know what kind of oil they use. It could be an inflammatory oil. So if you make it yourself, that is so much healthier than eating takeout. So that's what I've noticed. I've also noticed that people are drinking more alcohol. It's a more stressful time. And so unfortunately, people are drinking a little more alcohol, which, you know, in moderation can be okay, but we really don't want to rely on that as our main stress reliever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mentioned that before, and I'm not sure if you, the folks at home heard me, but like, I think for myself at least, having the resources at home, the healthy resources at home, have really helped me kind of just, you know, stay afloat in all this, and not have my weight sink me down by having all these terrible choices at home. For sure, at the beginning of the whole COVID quarantine, I'll totally admit that I had some bad choices, some like comfort foods at home that I was relying on. But at some point, you know, I realized how awful it was making me feel. So I did start going into those healthy choices. So I think that really does help that way. But you know, it's funny that you kind of you talk about alcohol. I think it leads us to our next question. You know, a lot of us sometimes don't even want to include it as part of our nutrition, like part of the intake that we had within our week, because we just don't necessarily count it or something like that. But I know that a lot of us, you know, like enjoy, you know, especially in summertime, having, you know, an occasional cold beer or the Moscow Mule or a nice wine over dinner. So how does alcohol affect the body, and really, like, how much should we stay away from it, and how much can we have in moderation?
Yeah, so I think moderation is really the key. If you're going to drink alcohol, you want to make sure you're not overdoing it during a training cycle. Now, moderation is probably a lot less than most of us realize. Mayo Clinic defines moderation of alcohol as 1 drink for females, 2 drink for males. So that's going to get really challenging if you're out with your friends or at a happy hour. A lot of us are not actually drinking in moderation. So keep that in mind. If you're going through a training season, it's really important to stay within those guidelines and drink in moderation. When you get over that amount, alcohol is dehydrating. It's going to impact your sleep. it's going to lead to poor muscle recovery. So when you're putting in all this effort to do all the right things, and then you go and have a couple of drinks, and then you're going to be set back. If you're going for a PR or a peak performance, I would really recommend cutting it out completely if possible. If you're going for more recreational, you know, with Chicago being postponed to a later, who knows when you're going to go for a PR again, and you want to have a happy hour drink, go for it. Now, with the dehydration standpoint, if you're going to have a glass of alcohol, make sure it follows with a glass of water to prevent that standpoint. And also just be sure that you don't let it go into other bad habits like bad eating, no sleep, and make sure that you're still not falling off track with your training the following day.
Yeah. All really good advice there, yeah. So I know we spent a lot of time talking about stuff to do in general. So how about, I'd like to kind of funnel the conversation into talking about fueling just before a major workout or, you know, the big race. How should we be modifying our diet to get ourselves ready for either a big workout or a big race?
Yeah, so when you're getting ready for a big workout or a big race, that's when you really need to hone in on what Sue mentioned before about making sure you're getting in enough of those carbohydrates and those other macros. You also want to make sure you're eating foods that agree with you. There's no place for those junk foods right before a big race or even a big workout. So I know a lot of times we think of race day as a big event, but all of our long runs, especially if you're a first-time marathoner or a new distance, and a lot of times our weekend long runs are the longest that we ever did that distance. So treating it like a race day and fueling your body correctly, keeping up with those hydrations 3 to 7 days before that long run or that race is going to be so important for you.
That's good. I do think of like, honing in or locking into my diet, the days before and whatnot. We're talking about omitting like the bad stuff, the junk food. What about inflammatory foods? Like things like food sensitivities. Can you talk to us a little bit about food sensitivities and how do they compare to, say, like allergies, and how seriously should we take food sensitivities into effect with our diet?
Great question. So a lot of people get confused between food sensitivity versus food allergy. So they both involve an overreaction of the immune system, but they are slightly different. A true food allergy, let's say your child has a peanut allergy and they can't have even near a peanut or even a small amount of peanut, and then they get immediate effects. So they feel their throat closing, or my husband's actually allergic to papaya, so immediately he'll get a rash on his trunk. So rashes, immediate hives, anaphylaxis, which we don't ever want to experience. Those are true allergies, and they involve part of the immune system called immunoglobulin E. Now, food sensitivities also involve immunoglobulins, but we look at those involved immunoglobulin A and G. So they're still part of the similar to this in this immune system, but they are a little different. So food sensitivities don't have that immediate reaction. They can actually show up to 3 days later. So it's still an inflammatory reaction in your body, which we all want to reduce our inflammation, because inflammation is at the base of every chronic disease. So we want to reduce our inflammation. So food sensitivities, it does create inflammation, it stimulates your immune system, and we really should take those very seriously. Because even though the side effects might be minor and not, life-threatening like in food allergies, we still are causing that inflammatory cascade, and then, it can create further issues down the line, autoimmune diseases, just not feeling well, affecting all your hormones. And so it's really important to get those addressed. And if you are questioning whether or not you have food sensitivities, because if you eat a food and 3 days later you have side effects, you really can't figure out, it's really hard to figure out what foods you are sensitive to. we at Align Modern Health or the doctors can actually run a food sensitivity test. And so you can tell, we have concrete numbers of, okay, what you should avoid and what you don't have to avoid. So yeah, those are very serious. I mean, some symptoms can include GI upset, brain fog, acne, fatigue, some respiratory issues, or even difficulty losing weight are all symptoms of food sensitivities.
That's good. That's good, healthy advice. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. What about hydration? I mean, should we be modifying our fluid intake before a big workout or a big race?
Oh, most definitely. Now, by answering this, I don't want to de-emphasize how important it is throughout your entire training to focus on hydration, especially through the summer months, like how hot it was last week. It's so important to make sure you're replenishing fluids. But right before the big event, whether that be a long run or that be the marathon or race day, 24 hours ahead of time is when you really want to hone in on your hydration. Now, with that being said, that last 24 hours before your race, a lot of the times your time is not your own. You're going to the expo, you're herding family to set up your race day plans, you're busy, you're running around, you're stressed, you're not thinking about hydration. Have your water bottle on you at all times, know where you can refill it throughout the day, and focus on that. And then as soon as you wake up the morning of race day, make sure you get some fluid in you. Now that's kind of something you need to practice, because obviously you don't want to overdo it, leading to increased urination, GI upset. You have to know what your body can handle. So 4 to 6 ounces that hour before should be totally well tolerable, but you're going to be up about 3 hours before. So play with it. See if you could handle getting in 20 ounces. Knowing where you go to the bathroom on race day, with Chicago, with getting into the corral, you don't want to be waiting in the corral and having to urinate and you're in trouble to start your race. I mean, we've all been there. So really learning how your body works, and that goes back to treating every long run as a mini race day and knowing what you need to do, getting up ahead of time and playing with that. But those last 24 hours are so crucial for performance.
So yeah, let's stick within that last 24 hours. Let's move a little bit further along to like the morning of. We're talking about race day, or I guess a big workout. But when and what should we be consider? What should we consider eating?
Yeah, so that last meal, again, not to keep repeating what I'm saying, but practice, practice, practice. Oh my goodness. If this is your first full marathon, please play with this before a race day, because sometimes foods will sit just fine with you on a normal day, but then when you go to run 26.2 miles, that's not going to agree with you. So what you want to look for is a carbohydrate that's low in fiber. So what that means, a bagel or rice cake is a great option, and then adding some protein to it. Like personally, my pre-race meal is always rice cakes with a little bit of almond butter and half of a banana. That's what I do. Works for me, may not work for everyone. So play with it, something that works with that high carbohydrate but low fiber content, and then a protein.
Okay. All right, and what about coffee? I mean, I know a lot of us enjoy our coffee first thing in the morning. Should that still be a part of our program? And race morning, should we be paying more attention to our coffee intake?
Yeah, so coffee contains caffeine, and that's main reason why people like it, is it gives it that little boost. So there are some coffee or caffeine in general can actually have some positive effects for your endurance race. But again, like Dr. Mykrat said, you got to play with it. Don't drink a bunch of coffee the day of the race, because you don't know how you're going to react. So coffee, some positive effects can be, it enhances your exercise performance. It improves your concentration and self-perceived energy levels, so it make you feel more energetic. It can increase your energy expenditure and oxygen uptake. It delays your feeling of fatigue. And, so it just all over, just generally improves endurance for, marathoners or triathletes. But of course, there's the negative effects of caffeine, which are your anxiety, your nervousness, you get jitters, mental confusion. It can elevate your resting heart rate. And do you really want to do that before you start to run, where you keep your heart rate elevated? It can cause gastric irritation. I have a lot of people, or some people, cannot have a bowel movement unless they have their coffee because it stimulates your bowel. So if you're one of those that tend to have a little looser stool, adding coffee may cause, nobody wants an accident while you're running your race, to put it nicely. And it's also mild diuretic, so it can, your fluid on that day is very precious, and so drinking coffee can actually help you lose some of that fluid. And then what Dr. Mykret said about sleep, it can cause, having it too late at night can cause insomnia. So there are positives and negatives. So it can't, again, practice, practice, practice. If you want to enjoy the positive effects of caffeine, play with it. Have it at different times before your long workouts, see what works best for you. And yeah, you can have some positive effects from caffeine, but just watch out for those side effects.
All right, let's talk about another liquid, and that would be more like the electrolyte, like sport drinks, and how much, what is the composition of those, and how much should we be drinking that versus just regular water?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan, especially with throughout summertime training and then Chicago Marathon, the weather is always just so up in the air. We've had really hot days, we've had colder days. Different things are going to impact how much water and how much electrolytes we need. So our individual body compositions, how much we sweat. I'm sure anyone who has ran a significant amount of time in Chicago heat, whether you sweat salt or you don't. If you're one of those runners that tends to be more salty when you sweat, electrolytes are going to be all that more important for you. So we're going to replenish, like we talked about earlier when we were talking about those salts, that the potassium, the sodium, the things that we're sweating out. So a good balance is to have, every time you have some water, have some electrolytes too. You're not going to stomach as much electrolytes as you do water, but you want to make sure you keep the two in check with each other. A lot of times if we do too much just water, you could deal with something called hyponatremia, so you're not getting enough sodium and you're going to have imbalances of your electrolytes, leading to confusion, dizziness, nausea, things you really want to avoid. Again, it's going to be more significant to keep in check electrolytes on the hot days. If you're carrying your fluids on you, like if you have a belt or whatnot, keep one with water bottle, one with electrolytes, and you could kind of go back and forth with it. If you're just using the aid stations, I would grab both and have electrolytes, maybe half of a glass, and then keep your water and finish that up too. So you do need to play with it and see how your body feels with the electrolytes, but know that it's important to have some if you're going to be doing the full length of a marathon.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. While we're on that topic, let's talk a little bit about how to stay on top of our nutrition while we're in the middle of a workout or on race day. How do some of those race-specific nutrition items work? Whether they're the ones that are provided by the race or the ones that you could actually buy at some place like Fleet Feet.
Yeah, so those products are so incredible because they've been scientifically studied to have the correct amount of not only macronutrients, so you're replacing your carbohydrates in your glucose stores, but a lot of them also have electrolytes and caffeine. So like Sue was just mentioning, the positive impacts that caffeine can have during these events. And if your body agrees with it, there's just the right amount in those little gels, goos, bars. There's so many different options out there right now. But basically, they're tailored to have the perfect combination that should agree with your body.
And that, like, it's so hard to determine like what we should be using and what what would be working with our own bodies. But what should we consider looking at on the nutritional facts when we're trying to determine like the in-race nutrition? Sue?
Yeah, the first thing you want to look at is the ingredient list. So look for all the artificial colorings, the flavorings. You want to try to avoid some of those. The less chemicals, the healthier the product is. You also want to look at what sugar source it is, what carb source it is. And I actually have a good diagram I'll share with you here. There it goes. So this is not all carbs are equal. So during exercise, you have some carbohydrates or sugars that are quick or fast digesting. Those are good for during the race or right before a race when you need that burst of energy. And then we have our slow digesting carbs. So the quick, fast ones are shown in green here. The slower ones are shown in red. So those will help you get through the whole race more slowly. You don't want to take a slow digesting carbohydrate when you need a burst of energy because it's not going to digest quick enough to give you that energy. So for quick, you're feeling fatigued, put in some of those fast digesting carbs like glucose or sucrose, maltodextrin. I know that's in a lot of the products, that those will get you that quick release. Use the slower ones as more throughout the whole race to give you, so you're not running out of carbohydrates as often. So you see here all the different sugars that are in the products. So that helps as well. But again, trying to avoid all the chemicals if you can. And as we keep reminding you, don't change what you're doing the day of the race. Just practice what you're doing. Even if it has horrible ingredients, don't change it the day before the race. Just stick with what you're doing because that's what you're used to. You don't want any surprise symptoms the day of.
No, I agree. Let's see. So what are some of the brands that are out there that, might be helpful to people come race day, or, stuff that they should be practicing during training?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would honestly recommend is going to a store like Fleet Feet and buying one of everything and seeing how you like it. And if you like the taste, I mean, they have a lot of unique flavors. Let's just put it that way. So you want to find something that's good for your palate, but also is going to not make you cramp. Like personally, some of the gels I cramp, some of them don't. So you just got to play with it and see what works for you. Different things like UCAN, Goo is a really famous one. Morton's, Huma, I love that one. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but the HUMA. It has the chia seeds in it, so it's more of a natural option. That's the one I personally use. They have electrolyte ones too, so then you can not only cross out your carbohydrate need, but you're also going to replenish your electrolytes. That one, make sure you drink with some water because it doesn't have the water in it. So that's when you're going to have to play from a fluid balance, like we were talking about before, keeping it all in the correct ratio. If you're going to have most goos or gels, have some water with it. Some of them, like the UCAN, has a protein bar. It's not really a protein bar, it's like a carbohydrate bar that has a good amount of protein in it. You can play with in the morning. UCAN also has individual electrolyte packets that are so easy to throw into a belt. So, I think Chicago does the Gatorade. If you're fine with Gatorade, awesome. If you want a more natural option, UCAN or Noon is a good option. Fleet Feet carries both of those, so you could carry them on your person and throw them in some water and be good to go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I work part-time at the Fleet Feet store at Lincoln Square, and I deal with customers all the time who are new to this, and I tell them just grab one of everything and try it out and see how it works.
Yeah, that's something awesome about Fleet because they have the individual ones. You don't have to commit to a box. You could go and literally buy one of every flavor and try it out. If you hate it, you guys all have a bunch of running friends. Pass it along to a teammate.
And Sue, I know we've discussed this about this offline, but you've had a few of your athletes or patients work with UCAN, and I know you just talked about how all carbs aren't created equal. Can you speak a little bit more about like UCAN, the powder?
I believe UCAN is more of I don't have the ingredients in front of me, it's more of a slow release. So that's good to have, before the race and have it, so it sustains you more. So you're not popping those quick release as often. So UCAN is a little bit more slow release, designed for maybe you don't need to refuel during a run. You know, it's not that long, so you can use that more as your carbohydrate source to get you through that. Otherwise, you know, if you need to recarb up, use the fast ones to really get you pushing with those carbs.
Yeah, to our athletes who are watching this, I know I've heard a few different athletes and people talk about not needing to carry as much on them when they take a UCAN. This is again, to that same point we've been driving home, is that this is so individualized that you have to practice with that, because what might work for you or for somebody else, if they don't take any other nutrition with them, it might not be the same for you. So if you're going to practice with UCAN and any of this stuff, definitely practice every single week. So. Oh
yeah, now is definitely the time. I mean, I think we're at the point of the training where our runs are long enough that we can be experimenting. So. Yeah,
for sure. And you know what? You know, Walter, I know you just alluded to that you do work part-time at Fleet Feet. And I think that's a big part of, like, how do we carry all this nutrition stuff with us? You know, I think one of the points, I'm not sure if we touch base on, but like taking a lot of the nutrition, generally we'll say take anywhere between like 30 minutes to an hour apart to sustain that energy. And if you think about like how long you might be out there for an endurance event, that can get pretty daunting. Like, how am I supposed to carry all this with me? Walter, how are they supposed to carry all that with them?
Okay. You know, I think everyone should have some sort of waist belt that they carry around them. For example, I have mine on right now, as a matter of this is by Ampipod, and it has this. I mean, the pocket looks small, but you know, I fit my iPhone in here pretty well, and it has an extra compartment in here, so I could put, for example, you know, I have my phone in one envelope, and then I can put my ID or my keys or my wallet or my, you know, ID card, you know, any nutrition, it fits in there. So that's definitely one option. You know, as far as people who are, you know, when you're carrying around your hydration, you know, I definitely recommend either having some sort of handheld water bottle or fuel belts or a waist belt system where, it wraps around your waist, and then it has clips where you can put the different bottles, you know, and I recommend having one for water, having one for electrolytes. We definitely have an assortment of those over at Fleet Feet. Some people have gotten more into the hydration vest concept where, you're actually able to carry quite a bit of fluid in that. And that I find to be especially useful this summer, seeing how none of the water fountains along the lakefront path are available. So, definitely something, something like a hydration belt, a hydration vest, or, having some sort of, something to carry around on your waist in order to make sure that you have access to that. And then, another thing that you want to think about is just how you plan out your route in order to be able to, have access to, the fluids that you need, and the other items that you'll need during your run. So.
Yeah, I've been wearing the vest myself, and I love the vest. And I know, that's another thing one should know is, what does your race allow to carry, what item do they allow you to carry into the race? Because I know that Chicago doesn't allow the vests. That's something that one should consider. So, yeah. All right, where are we at?
So I think we've covered quite a bit in terms of the nutrition during the workout. Let's talk a little bit about recovery now. I know I've heard stuff about the importance of something called an anti-inflammatory diet. Stu, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So again, inflammation is at the root of all chronic diseases. We want to reduce the inflammation, including foods that cause inflammation. So foods like gluten, dairy, high sugar, the alcohol, even some grains like corn or soy, depending on your your own makeup, whether you have food sensitivities or not, those all contribute to inflammation in your body. So inflammation is just your body's response to protect itself from harm. So this could include anything from stress, such as infection, exercise. Too much exercise can cause inflammation, muscle strain, injury, hormones, toxins. Poor diet can create inflammation. Anti-inflammatory diet is high in vitamins and minerals, lean protein, all those veggies, get those in. Phytonutrients, which are found in highly, deeply colored fruits and vegetables. Those are very anti-inflammatory. And, the benefits are based on their color. Eating processed junk food increases inflammation and, like I said, contributes to that chronic illness. So if you could think back to when we were hunters and gatherers, we didn't have pizza. We didn't have Pop-Tarts. We didn't have all those processed foods. So if we can think back to before we had agriculture and industrialized food, eating your plants, your fruits, once in a while you get a kill, there's your protein, you're eating healthy fish, healthy fats. So that's what our body is designed to eat. And all of that helps reduce inflammation.
Okay. So now that we have our inflammation reduced, what should we be eating after a run or a workout? Like, what should that include? And I guess how do the macros potentially change?
And so after a workout, it's really easy to get swept into junk food or a post-race beer or whatnot, because that's what's easy accessible a lot of the times. So I think it's a good habit to get into is to meal prep after you're done running meal. You want to make it very protein centered, as well as some fat and some carbohydrates. You do need to replenish your carbohydrate stores. Fat's going to help you start to repair and rebuild, feel full, but protein is going to really help those muscles. You also want it to be nutrient dense. And add a bonus, any of those anti-inflammatory foods Sue just mentioned are going to help bring down inflammation that you just racked up from your long run. Not saying you can't enjoy your beer, but if you're going to, have that meal there too, so you're not forgetting about it, because we know we all cross that finish line. In that moment, you want to celebrate, but then 24 hours later, you're thinking, what's next? If you want to get to that what's next, you got to make sure you start repairing as soon as you can.
Right. So on a more general level, I was wondering, I know there are lots of diets out there. I watch TV or I go online and I hear something about this diet or that diet. Would either of you mind explaining what some of those big popular diets are right now, and possible benefits or shortcomings of these diet plans?
Yeah, so I know one of the popular diets out there is the paleo diet. And that's, again, the Paleolithic diet. That's from, going back to when we were cavemen. So that's, like I was saying, that is a diet pre-industrialization. So getting those fruits, those vegetables, what we would eat as a caveman. The paleo diet nowadays tends to be very meat heavy. So we want to eat, have our portion of protein, but we want to have all those vegetables, fruits, everything like that. The paleo diet excludes grains, dairies, beans, legumes, and processed foods. So you should really include a lot of meat, fish, eggs, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, all those healthy fats and oils on a paleo diet. So paleo diet is a good diet if you do it correctly and not just have, ooh, I eat meat, caveman. No, you have to have those fruits and vegetables and healthy fats.
Yeah, so to complement that, on the flip side, a plant-based diet is, if you do it correctly, could be super healthy, but a lot of us could think, oh, plant-based, I'm not gonna eat the meat, but I'm still gonna have my breads and pastries and cookies because, you know, that could be vegan too. So it's being very cautious to eat real food. A lot of people get attracted to a plant-based diet for ethical reasons, which is a great motivation to eat a certain way. And like I said, plant-based would be very healthy, but you need to focus on eating the right way. So you're gonna want it. It's a learning curve if you're switching from a meat-centered diet to a more plant-based diet. You want to learn about different protein sources in plants, which is totally feasible to do, but it is definitely a learning curve. Other things you need to pay attention to are your micronutrients. So when we eat meat, it's really easy to get iron, B12, CoQ10, omegas. Those are things that are very easily digested and absorbed from most meat products. If you're eating plant-based, you're going to have to be a little bit more creative. Iron, for example, non-heme iron is what the iron source in plants are called. In order to absorb that, you need vitamin C. So if you're going to have some iron source that's plant-based, like spinach, you want to add some strawberries to that. So you're actually going to absorb it and do it. What I recommend to any person that wants to shift to a plant-based diet, get some baseline labs drawn, and very, very basic. Do a CBC that's going to look at your anemic status. Get your iron panel, get B12 measured. Vitamin D would be a great one to get done. Omegas, cholesterol, things like that. So you know you are where you started. Give yourself 2 months to play with it and try to adapt to this awesome diet that does have a lot of benefits. It can help you lose weight. It's cardioprotective. It actually help with female hormonal issues. There's plenty of benefits, but you got to make sure you're doing it the correct way. And if you need a supplement, that's okay. But you want to have those labs so you know if you need supplementation or not with plant-based diet.
Yeah, and what's really becoming popular is the keto diet. I hear people all the time, oh, I'm on the keto diet. You know, and for various reasons. So the keto diet originally, or ketogenic diet, if you really want to be formal, started out for children who had epilepsy. So keto diet uses fat as fuel, as the primary fuel source for the body instead of carbohydrates. So keto diet uses mostly fat. It changes the brain's chemistry or firing in the brain, which helps the children with their seizures. But then it started becoming into other medical uses, like somebody with uncontrolled blood sugar, like diabetes, or if somebody wanted to jumpstart their weight loss. Those are all beneficial aspects to the keto diet. Right now, I feel there's multiple definitions of the keto diet. The medical definition is very high fat, moderate protein, and low carb. Internet definition is becoming more ultra low carb. Don't worry about the fats or the protein, just don't eat any carbs. So that's not the true definition of the keto diet. So to get about the best way to do the keto diet is it's a very difficult diet because you're eating mostly fats. A lot of people with the keto diet rely on a lot of dairy with heavy cream or cream cheese. And then of course, bacon, I can eat bacon. No, you can't eat all bacon. So bacon and cream cheese. You still have to eat a lot of plants, you know, like avocados, coconut oil, flax oil, all the good beneficial fats. Eating fatty fish like salmon are also beneficial on the keto diet. So the macros on a keto diet are about 75% fat, 20% protein, and 5% carb. So that's what makes up the keto diet. And yes, it does help jumpstart weight loss and help control blood sugar because you're not eating as many carbohydrates to spike that blood sugar. Now, as for running or endurance, some people are switching to becoming, as they say, fat adapted. This is where you train using your fat stores. So there's a specific heart rate you're supposed to train at, and you're eating mostly, you know, a keto diet. So while you're training and you're amping up training, you're supposed to stay at this specific heart rate. And that way you're burning primarily fat. Then when you get to race time, that's when you supplement with your carbs because it's super long. So it's really complicated, but it doesn't have to be. If you really are into it, you know, our functional medicine doctors and our nutritionists can help you kind of figure this all out, what works best for you. Again, don't go jumping into a keto diet. Really do your research. It's not an easy diet. Again, you have to get a little creative if you're avoiding all those inflammatory foods like, you know, cream cheese and bacon. So you really want to stick with a healthy diet, but there are some benefits to it. It can help endurance running if you know how to do it properly.
I think the last really popular trendy diet right now is intermittent fasting. Has been gaining a lot of traction. Intermittent fasting is when you eat within a certain eating window. So whether that means you eat only from noon to 6 p.m. or from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., you condense all your meals within a shorter window. A lot of people will try this diet for weight loss. It has some research show neurological impact. So for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, there's been some research that could be supportive. For hormonal support in some demographics, I say that because it's not cookie cutter, it's very personalized. A lot of men do really well on it. A lot of menopausal females could do really well on it. Menstruating, hormonal, changing females, I would work with the provider and see where you're at with that. But some women thrive on it. So it's, again, personalized for you. When you are adapting into an intermittent fasting plan, it does take some time. So this is where something you'd want to consider in your race training where you're at. It's kind of like if when switching into ketosis, you're going to experience some symptoms like nausea, headache, the blood sugar crashes when you're used to eating breakfast and you're not going to be eating breakfast anymore. So give your body some time to adapt. I would not recommend doing this like within a month of a big race. Maybe now that if you've decided to take a toll and postpone Chicago till next year, might be a great time to play with this and see if your body thrives on it. From a running standpoint, I will say that if you are not used to running in a fasted state, it's something you want to be very cautious with. I wouldn't recommend going out for a long effort trying to be fasted. Maybe your shorter days, and you know, a lot of people will view intermittent fasting as doing 5 days of it, and then your 2 days you're going to eat normal, and that could play great into a training plan. If you during the week or during your training days you're going to have breakfast and be fueled for running, but then during the week you'll have 2 days of being fasted. So you play with it, tailor it to your workout plan. Some other precautions are on if you have history of like diabetes, obviously like hormonal female, I said like that's something to take into account. But if you're trying to lose weight, regain your blood sugar stability, things like that, it could be very beneficial.
That's good. Yeah, that's a lot of good information. I think those are the top 4 that we hear a lot about. And let's also talk a little bit about just like losing weight versus gaining weight during training. I would say probably more so we hear a lot of people talk about wanting to try to lose weight during training. You know, is it a good idea? Are there possibilities? Does it naturally just kind of come off? You know, what's the approach there? What's the healthy approach?
I'll start with this one, Sue, and if you want to chime in and help me out in it a little bit. So with going to a marathon training plan, I am a firm believer that should be your goal. That is such a significant goal. You are putting your body through an incredible amount of stress. Weight loss is also stressful, and I don't think the two, they can coexist and commingle a little bit, but if you're trying to do both, you may leave yourself up for some disappointment. You have to be nourishing your body, and a lot of times as we start to marathon train, our bodies are not used to that amount of stress, and you actually might gain a little bit of weight, and that's okay. It may help you perform. If you want to cut weight, I would recommend you do that before your training season even starts and get yourself in an optimal place to begin. And then you don't have to worry or feel bad or feel guilty and have a poor relationship with food that needs to nourish you throughout your weight plan. So be prepared that if you're going to start marathon training, it's very possible you may gain some weight. And you know, weight's kind of arbitrary when it comes to being an athlete because we know muscle mass is more than fat. And so things, body composition is going to change. You are going to get incredibly stronger and you're going to keep going, but the number on the scale may not reflect that. So if you have weight loss goals, off season's a great time to really hone in on those weight loss goals to set you up for a successful race season.
Yeah, I agree, Dr. McCrut. Yeah, you really don't want to go into a marathon with the main goal of losing weight. It may or may not happen. You may be severely disappointing, and when and I've seen this where you start your long runs and all of a sudden you start gaining weight, and to me that signals maybe your body is too stressed. Your stress hormone cortisol is at the max, which causes your metabolism to slow down, which then increases your weight. So I agree, you should not be concentrating on weight loss during a marathon. Just focus more on nourishing your body, not weight loss. However, it is possible to lose weight. We just have to do it correctly. And the practitioners at Align Modern Health can help with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are such great, important tips. And a lot of overall good information from top to bottom, from beginning to end. If there's just a few tips or one solid tip that either of you can give us to summarize or take someone's approach to their nutritional journey for a marathon, what would that be?
I think the number one is listen to your body. When you're marathon training, if you could become in tune to how your body is feeling and responding under pressure, you can't go wrong. And now, if your body's telling you to drink beer and eat pizza, maybe listen a little harder. So really pay attention to what your body's actually craving. And then going along with that, all those diets that we talked about, all those popular diets, the one thing they all have in common is eating your non-starchy, anti-inflammatory fruits and vegetables. You can't go wrong there. For marathon training, for recovery, for overall health, you can't go wrong if you start there.
Yeah, to add to that, make sure you're consuming enough calories. Almost all of the endurance athletes I have seen are not consuming enough calories. You'd be amazed at how much. If you go back to that first slide of my Excel spreadsheet, 160-pound person running for over 3 hours needs about 4,000 calories at least. So you're thinking, oh my God, that's a lot. So during training, you're going to be eating, sleeping, and training. Eating, sleeping, and training. That's pretty much it. So you want to have enough calories so your body isn't put under undue stress, raising that cortisol, getting your hormones out of balance, and then you start gaining weight, you start feeling more fatigued. So you really, really need to plan out your nutrition as well as planning out your training. Another tip, try to avoid the highly processed carbohydrates as much as you can, the junk food, the white bread, the white pasta. Have some different choices, and we can also help you with that. Again, going back to listening to your body, that also goes not only with what you're eating, but how your body feels. If you get an injury, don't push through it. Come see our chiropractors, our acupuncturists at Align Modern Health. They can help you with that. We have massage therapists as well, which we're starting to get back into our clinics. So we come see us for any reason you have injury, you want nutrition plan, if you feel to get assessed your nutrient status. Just you need a plan for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Walter, how about yourself? Being a seasoned marathoner, what kind of tips do you have for our athletes?
My biggest tip is that post-run recovery literally happens once you're done. I made the mistake in the past of just, okay, I get done with the workouts and I kind of put off the rehydration process. I kind of put off getting those calories in, during that, 1 or 2 hour window after the workout. So you want to make sure you plan that out, because, what you do that hour or so after the workout will have serious consequences towards the future workouts that we'll be doing during the rest of the season. Like what I do on Saturday will affect what will happen to me on the following Monday and Tuesday and beyond. So definitely, just as we plan that, pre-long run meal before we do our long run on the weekend, make sure that we're also planning whatever it is that we need to, make sure we're planning our food intake, our fluid intake, our electrolyte intake for after the workout.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you, Coach Walter. Well, Dr. Lexi Mykrit, Sue Smith, and Coach Walter, thank you so much for coming out and talking with us today. So many good takeaways that I know I'm looking forward to implementing them. Everyone, I hope you were able to digest and absorb all the delicious advice we have just given. Remember, it's not the end because the marathon is canceled. Running and nutrition are both a lifestyle, and when married together, you will get to your goal. You will get the goals that you want, and you'll do this for as long as you want. If you are interested in learning more and want to see either Dr. Mykrit, Sue Smith, or any one of our amazing team members of providers, we are open for in-person services as well as telemedicine appointments. We are in network with most major insurance carriers, and we do a complimentary insurance verification for you upfront, so you know what the costs associated are. As a CS athlete, you do get a 10% discount off of all self-pay services. And as Sue said, massage therapy is back. Just remember to mention that you are a CS athlete when you do go to our website at alignmountainhealth.com to schedule your appointment. So until then, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay active. This is Coach Ryan, and hope you live life to the fullest. Take care.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.